Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. I first started talking about this storm 2 weeks ago when the polar vortex first disrupted way up there in the Arctic on December the 7th, and it's taken 2 weeks. But the Siberian Express is unloading by Friday morning, and it's plunging all the way from Siberia down to Mexico. Look how far south it goes with those off the chart temperature anomalies of the coldest temperatures we've seen since the December 1989 outbreak across the central and eastern two-thirds of the country. In fact, the latest update from the National Weather Service for the hazard advisories, they've got about 90 million people currently under a wind chill watch, warning, or advisory across the central and southern states. In fact, portions of Montana this morning reached all the way down to 70 below zero wind chill factor. That is dangerous stuff, guys. You can get frostbite within minutes with that. Widespread 30 to 50 below feels like across the central northern plains, and then even all the way down into Texas. When's the last time you saw the entire state of Texas under a wind chill watch? Could be freezing temperatures all the way down into Mexico, wind chills below zero from central Texas all the way into North Texas. In fact, even Alabama back into Birmingham. First time ever they've ever issued a wind chill watch for them. That extends into Georgia. And there's also another 90 million people that have a current winter weather advisory, winter storm warning, or winter storm watch. In fact, there's even a blizzard warning up here into portions of Minnesota, and very high winds are going to be encompasses with this system. In fact, a good chunk of the central and eastern two-thirds are going to be experiencing 40 to upwards to 80 miles an hour wind gusts with this system, especially up here into the Northeast. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button. You get all my daily content, and I would love to reach 150,000 followers by the end of the year. So let's take a look at the winds, because man, these winds are going to be insane with this significant blast. And look at the chart on the right hand corner of the screen. This is the latest update from the high resolution guidance just over the next 48 hours from now until Friday morning, guys. So you can definitely see the significant wind gust. They're going to encompass all these areas in orange, could gust to over 50 miles an hour as this cold front plunges. These areas in red over 60 miles an hour. And once you get into these white shaded areas, we're talking 70, potentially 80 mile per hour wind gusts, especially up here into the Northeast, back in upstate New York, getting into Vermont and New Hampshire, going into Maine here. And luckily, these 102 mile per hour winds are offshore. But yeah, significant winds are going to be encompassing with this cold front. In fact, look at the temperature gradient as this Arctic front arrives. This is your wind chill factors right now. So everybody in the light blue, the pinks, and the purples are feeling essentially the below zero wind chills currently right now. And it's going to be a sharp gradient, an initial 20-degree drop within the first hour. And over the span of 6 hours, you're going to be experiencing about a 50-degree drop in feels like temperatures. It's going to hit you like a ton of bricks. And by the time we go into Friday morning, look at the area of the U.S. encompassing a below zero feels like temperatures across the U.S. This is pretty insane, guys. This is bone chilling cold. This is something that we haven't seen in many years. So all these areas will be having dangerously cold wind chills, especially in the purple, where it's basically off the chart of over 50 below zero wind chill factors. All these areas in pink, 30 to 40 below. You can start even down here into Texas and across the deep south, well below zero. 10 below zero is definitely not out of the question. Even reaching all the way down into Houston. To give you an idea, the huge real estate this cold front is going to overcome by the time we get into Friday morning. And there's also a snow aspect of it too. So let's really break this thing down for you. Now we can actually use the latest high resolution guidance that goes out over the next 48 hours, and it sees stuff that the other global models just couldn't see because now this is within range. So what you see here, by the time we go into Thursday overnight tonight, about 2 o'clock in the morning, we see this initial band that's coming out of Montana now going to be swinging through the Rockies, heading through Kansas and Nebraska with some heavier snows. That'll enter portions of Minnesota, heading into Iowa. Should start snowing later in the evening, but really start to pick up during the overnight hours, and really heavy snow extending into Wisconsin. But notice this secondary system pretty good far away. It's another low pressure bringing some rain showers off the Carolinas, and we are seeing a mixed bag of precipitation into West Virginia areas heading into Virginia. But notice the real estate, how far separated they are. They're not going to be able to feed off each other. So these are all separate systems. So as we move through your noon time frame on Thursday, that cold front plunges. It's going quick. So it's going to bring a swath of snow through Kansas, through northern portions of Oklahoma. And this is what we talked about with the flash freeze. We are going to get some initial precipitation, probably rain changing over to sleet, and some freezing rain. This is what they call the flash freeze that we talked about. All snow heading into portions of Missouri here, and it should be really heavy snow entering portions of Chicago, into Illinois, going into Wisconsin by the time we get into your noon time frame. And again, that second system is still hundreds of miles separated from each other, off just all rain off the East Coast here, but then having that mixed bag of precipitation once you get into portions of, for say, Maryland, getting into Virginia here, then seeing a little bit of a change over to all snow into northern portions of Pennsylvania. But once we go into Thursday night, that cold front will continue to plunge eastbound. So again, with separate systems, look how far offshore this is off the East Coast. All rain over the Atlantic, and then rain on the rain along the East Coast here, and then really most of this is just in the form of rain as it's pulling in that warm Atlantic Ocean waters. But then the colder air is on the backside, with the initial band of that flash freeze really hitting portions of Indiana, Ohio, that by then getting into Kentucky, into Tennessee. Again, it's going to come in fast and furious, so it could lay down an initial swath of ice, sleet. This is why travel makes it so dangerous with this system. And then it's just all snow on the backside with bone-chilling temperatures. So whatever falls is going to freeze, and it's not going to melt. So this is what makes travel so hazardous. And then all snow as we get into Michigan, as this upper level low will start to deepen. Now we're talking, it could deepen more than 25 millibars within a 24-hour time frame. If that happens, it would go what's called bombogenesis or cyclogenesis. In the media, it's often referred to as bomb cyclone. But either way, it's basically a low pressure going to be bottoming out and dropping of 24 millibars in that time frame, within that allotted time frame, and some models actually having it deepening 35 millibar drop in a 24-hour time frame. So yes, rapid intensification, rapid deepening with the wind. So it's going to be a step down process, but it's going to hit you like a ton of bricks by the time you get into Friday morning across the board here, as this swings across the Ohio Valley, getting into portions of Pennsylvania now, again, laying down that flash freeze with some sleet and some freezing rain on the front end, and then just all snow on the backside as this low pressure really starts to deepen now. Now we're down to a 981 millibar low pressure, but notice all the dry on the backside. You see all the dryness on the backside? That's an identification of all that true Arctic air. Arctic air is the driest air, and there's no other system out here out west with no other lift mechanism. So we getting dew points crazy, insane low. I mean, I haven't seen this in many years. In fact, maybe even in my lifetime. I don't know. I mean, it's very rare to see a 29 below dew point in Texas. I can promise you that. I think during the outbreak of 1989, it got down to 12 below at DFW. That's the record. So if it does hit 15 or 19 below, that would actually break even the 1989 outbreak of the low dew points on the backside of this very, very, very dry Arctic air mass. You can see all the negative numbers in the green here across the central US behind this significant Arctic front with all the extremely dry air. It's really going to be hitting static electricity in very high levels as well. So it's just a great time to stay indoors, especially on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But unfortunately, it's Christmas, and you're probably going to be traveling towards Christmas. So expect a lot of delays by air or by car. You see the encompass of real estate of this storm overcomes in the central and eastern 2/3. You're just gonna have to be patient with all the high winds. You're talking, you could have power outages with just the wind aspect, and then you have all the cold putting all the record demand on the heating that's going to be across the board across these areas. So yes, basically a concern for maybe potentially a lot of power outages with this particular system, especially with the winds being so strong, 50, 60 miles an hour, and the blowing and drifting snow will obviously impact travel on the ground as well. So yes, by the time we get into Friday afternoon, here's that system. So with the separation, these never really kind of phase together. So they never really get going to some sort of like massive superstorm. I know people with blowing out in social media and saying, hey, it's going to be like 1978. It might be like the groundhog blizzard. I don't see anything like that. I don't definitely see anything like that. There's not any phasing with this system. It's going to be some high snow. I mean, I think it's going to be some 15 to 20 to 1 ratios, but I know we'll go over some of these snowfall totals, but we're not going to have those significant totals. Where it could be significant is up here in across the lakes too, because we're going to have backside winds, cross winds, and the lake enhanced snow is going to be insane. On that aspect, we're going to be looking at 2 to 3 feet of snow if you happen to live by the lakes there. But the higher amounts are going to be up here in the northern Great Lakes. But yes, as we get into your Friday afternoon, it's going to be all rain heading up the East Coast, back into Maine, some transfer to sleet and freezing rain, but the winds are just going to be cranking with this system of 60, 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts. Is definitely not out of the question. There's the snow on the backside with this other low pressure center funneling on the backside with that cross-polar flow into Pennsylvania, portions of New Jersey, getting into upstate New York are going to get some snow out of this deal, but the heavier snow is going to be up here in Canada with now a 975 millibar low pressure as it starts to ring out over portions of Michigan and Wisconsin there. So if we broaden the view by the time we get into Christmas Eve, there's the heavier snows kind of winding down. Now it's down to a 969 up there in Canada. So definitely bottoms out. We go through what they call a bomb cyclone, right? It definitely rapidly deepens in intensification. But there's no other second system on the backside. These never really phase together. So like the significant totals down here are not going to be that impressive, but it's just the blowing and drifting snow that you're going to have to deal with. Regardless if it's 3 inches or 6 inches, it's going to be blowing and drifting. It's going to be brutal. The wind chills are going to be below zero. The temperatures are going to be below zero. So let's take a look at some of these snowfall totals. So here's the latest update on the NAM model. Goes out over the next 48 hours, and I think this really hits the storm. All these areas in blue, we're talking a good 3 to 6 inches. Right, a good 3 to 6 inches, portions of Missouri, back through Chicago. I think I've got Chicago about 6 inches. I think that's probably going to be accurate. Up here in Indiana, going through Ohio, portions of Kentucky here, through West Virginia, into Pennsylvania. Yes, once you go into the lakes, once you get into Michigan, once you get into Wisconsin, especially around the lakes here, yeah, 2-3 feet. It's definitely not out of the question with this system. Grand Rapids, probably 18 inches, upwards to possibly 2 feet. So there's definitely going to be areas getting 2 feet of snow from this system, but mostly it's going to be along the Great Lakes, up here into the upper northern Great Lakes. And then once you get into Canada, yeah, especially insane amounts where these things bottom out, could be looking at 3 feet of snow. Here's the overall European guidance. We do have that northwest system, so they are going to be dealing with some ice and some freezing rain up for them in the Pacific Northwest, transferring to snow. So they're going to have their own separate system. But here's the main system through the central and eastern 2/3. The latest European over the 90-day and the NAM is about right on cue with this snowfall totals heading up into our northern states. And then what's it going to look like for all of the areas for the wind? Like I mentioned, pretty insane. So the zoomed in guidance over the next 48 hours on the HRRR model has the most intense. So this is zoomed out. So, but look at the ribs. It just gives you an indication how high impact event this will be. And then yes, once you get up here into the Northeast, this is where the significant winds are really going to be cranking 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. Wind gusts is definitely not out of the question. And then that freezing flash freeze is going to be a high impact as well. So here's the sleet as this comes across the US, and there's your freezing rain. So it's going to lay an initial flash freeze with some freezing rain, changing over to sleet, and then changing over to snow across. Could swing through portions of Oklahoma, Arkansas, northern portions of Mississippi, northern portions of, Alabama there, northern portions of Georgia, right? But like a little bit heavier amounts once you get into Tennessee, Kentucky, and then swing northwards. So, and then on the back side, as you wake up on Christmas morning, who's all going to be experiencing a cold Christmas? Pretty much about 89% of the country. About 89% of the country is going to be seeing freezing temperatures on Christmas morning. And who's going to see a white Christmas? But if the Euro's correct, this is all could see potentially snowing or an inch of snow on the ground. So most of the snow is probably going to be over by then. But what's on the ground left is still considered a white Christmas. And all these areas where you see the grays, especially the blues, and up here into the pinks, and especially into the whites, are going to be seeing a white Christmas this year. So what's happening after Christmas? So the initial time, we're going to be watching the P&A start to get positive here. That's going to bring the warmer conditions back for the West. And then from the 26th through New Year's Eve, the central and eastern 2/3 are going to be below average temperatures. But as they get deeper towards New Year's, that these warmer conditions are going to be slowly drifting to the east. But between now and then, the day after Christmas, you're still going to be on the cold side. You're still going to be on the cross-polar flow. So you still have opened the door for snow into Iowa, into Illinois, through Indiana, and through Ohio the day after Christmas. So there's another system coming across, and then that same system will continue to funnel, take advantage of that cross-polar flow. Look at the orange. Those are the warmer conditions. So you're still into the cold side, bringing more snow through the Ohio Valley, through portions of northern portions of Pennsylvania, and upstate New York. So hey, I appreciate you guys following. Do follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I'll be keeping you the latest update on this storm. I know it's a lot to go over this afternoon, but I want to give you the latest update on this significant storm that looks to unfold between now and Christmas Day. So catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.